I'm Tracy Thompson. I'm from the Milgard School of Business, and I'm going to be talking about a paper that's under review that I have been working with Jill Purdy, who's also here at UW-Tacoma, and another co-author at Oxford University, Mark Van Truska. And we're interested in social entrepreneurs. So this is my bio. I did pictures. Those are the journals I published in. Those are the schools I've been to. I've been here for 20 plus years. I'm one of the founding faculty, so been around for a while. Did you know that there are businesses that are focused on doing well, meaning making money, and doing good? In our state, companies are called social purpose corporations. And that's really what we're interested in, understanding the dynamics of these kinds of companies. Something is happening in Seattle. We've had some new laws passed that create a new form of social purpose corporations, and we're seeing those take off. So is there a new entrepreneurial ecosystem emerging? And if so, how do we understand why that's happening and what it means? Entrepreneurship research does study ecosystems, and they primarily looked at it from a structural standpoint, trying to identify who the actors are and how they're connected in ways that support startups. And that's a good start. It's kind of practitioner-oriented, but it's a good start, and so we build from that. One of the other comments that we have about that research is it's pretty top-down, so it's sort of understanding it from the perspective of how do we create an ecosystem, how can we get a piece of the pie. And so a lot of the work looks at what actors like governments and economic development agencies can do. You probably are familiar with these ecosystems. The research studies all of them. Silicon Valley, there's one in Boulder, there's some in Boston. So again, it's real practitioner-oriented. Here's the ecosystem, here are the players, here's how they interact. And that's good, but it's not enough. It also is focused on a particular type of company. It's focused on sort of the assumption of for-profit, high-tech. And that doesn't quite fit what we're interested in, which is these companies that are really focused on creating social impact and also making money. So these businesses that straddle the space between nonprofits and for-profit businesses is what we're interested in, and they are not very well supported. And we don't know very much about how these kinds of ecosystems emerge. Moreover, these ecosystems are embedded in our system of capitalism, of market-based capitalism, and we don't know really, they don't fit. They don't scale. They don't necessarily exit with big money, like all of the startups that the prior speaker was speaking about. And so how does this work? How do we create these things? We are sociologists, so we're looking at these as organizational fields, which really attends to a group of organizations that interact with one another and create shared meaning. So our version of an ecosystem is this notion of a field. And from that, we also build from other work in sociology that says how things come into being is really not through top down, it's through the bottom up. It's through people doing stuff together and creating meaning. It's social construction. So we're taking these bits of sort of approaches to understanding ecosystems and looking at how an ecosystem is emerging. And we've tried to, the challenge for us is that it's not emerged yet, or in the process of emerging. So how do you do that methodologically? So I have lots on methods. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that, but we collected a broad set of information, and we did a lot of qualitative data analysis to understand what people were doing, with whom they were doing it, when they were doing it, and tried to understand what the early moments of an ecosystem that doesn't fit the capitalist system looks like. How these companies get money, how do they build themselves. People spent a lot of time in the early moments just trying to figure out who they were and how they could find each other and how they could work together. They also tried to work on the legal infrastructure, and they tried to build other funding sources outside the typical VC world. They also spend a lot of time talking about who are we and what are the words that we use, what's the language we use, do we all agree on terms for what a business is that does good and makes money, that's different maybe than a nonprofit that actually makes money, because nonprofits make money too. I have a couple data displays for you. This one really is trying to highlight over time the increasing complexity of social organization among the actors in the emerging field. And so you see over time more organizational and interorganizational activity. My next data display is pretty messy, but it tries to highlight how you're seeing fields emerge through the cross connections of people. So we have threads of activity that become increasingly connected and increasingly formalized into organizations and events that all support impact social businesses. We think we've got a two-phase model here. So the early phase is really this meaning-making, trying to figure out who we are, and only then can you start actually creating conventions that challenge capitalism, market-based capitalism. We know how to fund for-profit businesses. We know how to give money to charities. We don't know how to fund these things. So what do we think we found? Well, we were trying to approach the typical entrepreneurship research that says, do this top down, create, you're a city planner, let's create this. Instead, what we're saying is, hey, we need to pay attention to people working together, and we know a little bit about that. In conclusion, I think that the larger scale of this is, are we on the cusp potentially of a transformation in capitalism, or is this just another blip in the long march of capitalism down the road to nihilism? I don't know. But that's what we're interested in, and we're trying to track that over time because it's not done yet. So thank you.